Hello students, I am Mohammad Faizik, Biochemistry mentor, and today in this video I am going to explain you about oxidation and reduction in details. This is very important topic because every year in board examination 2-3 marks questions will definitely come from this topic. So this oxidation and reduction topic is from the first chapter of chemistry, class 10th, chemical reaction and equation. And this topic is important also because it's students almost they are confused that which one is getting oxidized, which one is getting reduced, on what basis you can say that one substance, one of the reactant is oxidized, one of the reactant is reduced. So let's talk about oxidation and reduction. I'm sure after watching this video all your confusions, all your doubts will be clear and you can easily identify the reactant being oxidized, being reduced, oxidizing agent and reducing agent. So let's start. Now oxidation and reduction, as you can see here on the board, I have divided this into two parts. The first part I'm going to explain you about oxidation and here reduction. So in class 10th there are mainly three important points on which we will discuss oxidation and as well as reduction. So the first point, as you can see here, what is oxidation? So it is the gain of oxygen or any electronegative element. Gain of oxygen or any electronegative element. So what is electronegative element? Electronegative elements are those elements which have tendency to gain electron, like chlorine, fluorine, oxygen, sulfur. So they are electronegative elements. So when you can say if any reactant oxygen is being added, oxygen is being added. See here, like we have taken sodium and reacting it with oxygen. So sodium is reacting with oxygen and what you are getting here, sodium oxide. So in the reactant sodium is there and in the product sodium oxide is present. So what is happening here? Sodium is getting oxidized. Why? Because oxygen is added here. Am I clear here? Suppose C plus O2 gives CO2. So oxygen is added in carbon. So carbon is oxidized. Why? Because oxygen is added in carbon. Second, addition of any electronegative element. That is also oxidation. Oxygen or any electronegative element. See, iron I have taken and I have reacted with chlorine. And in the product side, what I am getting here? Iron chloride, FeCl3. This is called ferric chloride. So here, on the reactant side only iron, but in the product side it is with chlorine. So chlorine is added and chlorine is an electronegative element. So you can say here that iron is oxidized. Why it is oxidized? Because of addition of chlorine, which is electronegative element. This one is clear? Now let's talk about loss of hydrogen or any electropositive element. So if there is loss of hydrogen, then also you can say that the reactant is oxidized. So let's see one example here. What I have taken here, ethanol. Ethanol. It means 2. Ethanol, that is CH3, CH2OH. It is also known as ethyl alcohol. So when ethanol will undergo oxidation in the presence of copper, so you can say it is getting converted into ethanol, that is acetaldehyde. And the formula you can see here, CH3CH2OH, and here it is CH3CHO. So what is going on here? How many hydrogens are there on the reactant side? Can you count? Let's count this. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 1, 6. So 6 hydrogens are there in the reactant side. But in the product side, there are only 4 hydrogen. So there is loss of 2 hydrogen atom. And therefore we can say that ethanol is being oxidized. Why? Because of loss of hydrogen. Now let's talk about electropositive element. So what is electropositive element? Those elements which have tendency to lose electron. They are called electropositive. Like group 1 element, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. Group 2 element, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, barium, strontium, radium. These are electropositive because they have tendency to lose electron. So what is going on here? In the second example you can see here, it is where CuCl2, and it is getting converted into Cu2Cl2 we have in the reactant side, but in the product side one copper is separated and we have only CuCl2. So what is happening here? There is a loss of one copper from CuCl2. loss of one copper, and you know copper is a metal and metals are electropositive. So therefore there is loss of electropositive element. There is loss of copper from CuCl2 and copper is an electropositive element. Therefore you can say that it is being oxidized. Why? CuCl2 is oxidized because there is loss of copper. Clear hai? Chalo. Now let's talk about the third one, that is loss of electron. Whenever if there is loss of electron taking place, you can say that oxidation is taking place. So you can say there oxidation is loss of electron. So that can be learned by this simple trick which is called OIL. OIL. OIL means oxidation is loss of electron. So you can see here, see here. Now we have taken sodium plus chlorine and it is reacting together to give what? Sodium chloride. Na plus Cl2 gives NaCl. So sodium here, its atomic number is 11, so 281. There is one electron in the outermost orbit of sodium. If you will see this side, what is happening here? Chlorine. Chlorine. What is the electronic configuration of chlorine? 287, because it has 17 electrons. So chlorine needs one more electron to become stable to complete its octet. And sodium, you can see one excess electron is there in the outermost orbit, so it wants to lose the electron to become stable. So sodium will be losing the electron and becoming cation. Cation means having positive charge. So sodium is losing electron. You can say that sodium is oxidized. Why? Because it is losing electron. And to whom it is giving electron? To chlorine. So chlorine is reduced. Why chlorine is reduced? Because reduction is what? Reduction is gain of electron. So let's talk about reduction. So reduction is gain of electron. This can also be learned by this simple trick, RIG. RIG means R for reduction is gain of electron, RIG. So you can see here again, sodium plus chlorine gives NaCl. Sodium has one more electron, one extra electron. Chlorine needs one electron. So sodium is giving the outermost electron to chlorine. And chlorine is gaining the electron from sodium. So chlorine is gaining the electron now. So you can say here that chlorine is what? Reduced. Why? Because chlorine is gaining one electron from the sodium atom. Now let's talk about reduction, the first concept. So what is reduction, my students? My dear students, reduction is gain of hydrogen or any other electropositive element. So gain of hydrogen is reduction. Let's see one example. The sodium reacts with hydrogen and form hydride. Which hydride? Sodium hydride. Okay. So in this reaction, what is happening here? Sodium plus hydrogen. So hydrogen is added in the sodium. You can see in the product, hydrogen is added in the sodium. So addition of hydrogen is called reduction. So you can say that sodium is reduced. Why sodium is reduced? Because of addition of hydrogen. Am I clear? Now let's move to the next concept, that is addition of any electropositive element. So electropositive element, again tendency to lose electron. See, we have copper and CuCl2, that is cuprous chloride. Sorry, cupric chloride. We have copper and cupric chloride in the reactant side. But what is happening in the product side? This copper is being added to this cupric chloride and it is converted into cuprous chloride. So you can see here, it's very simple. Here you have one copper and here you have on the product side two copper. It means there is addition of copper, and copper is an electropositive element. So there is addition of electropositive element here. Therefore, you can say that CuCl2 is being reduced. Why? Because there is addition of copper, which is electropositive element. And addition of electropositive element is called reduction. Clear? Now let's talk about the second concept, that is about loss of oxygen. So whenever there is loss of oxygen taking place from any reactant, then you can say it is reduced. So loss of oxygen is called reduction. So let's see one example here. Here we have in the reactant side CuO plus H2, that is copper oxide plus hydrogen. And what is going on here? Copper oxide is converted into copper and oxygen is getting added into this hydrogen. So copper oxide is getting converted into copper. So there is loss of oxygen, no? Huh? In the reactant side it is CuO, but in the product side it is Cu. So this is loss of oxygen from copper oxide. Therefore, you can say that copper oxide is the reactant which is reduced here. Why it is reduced? Because there is loss of oxygen. Am I clear? Now, let's talk about the next example, next reaction. We have taken here auric chloride. Auric chloride is AuCl3. And what is happening in the product? It is getting converted into AuCl. And two chlorine atoms are removed, are separated. So there is what happening here? There is loss of chlorine. There is loss of two chlorine atom from AuCl3 and it is converted into AuCl. AuCl3 is getting converted into AuCl. So there is loss of chlorine. And you know chlorine is electronegative element. So wherever there is loss of electronegative element, you can say that reduction is taking place. So AuCl3 is reduced. Why it is reduced? Because two chlorine atoms are removed from AuCl3. And the last concept I have already discussed, that whenever there is gain of electron, then you can say it is reduction. So oxidation is oil, that is loss of electron, and reduction is gain of electron. Sodium is losing electron, sodium is oxidized, and this chlorine is gaining electron, so it is reduced. And one more thing is very important, that most of the reactions, they are redox reaction. What is redox reaction? Redox means reduction and oxidation. It means that in most of the reaction, oxidation and reduction occurs simultaneously at the same time. If one of the reactant is getting oxidized, the other one must be reduced. So oxidation and reduction occur simultaneously. Then it is called redox reaction. Now let us see some examples of redox reaction. So in the first example, as you can see here, copper oxide CuO plus H2, and it is giving here Cu plus H2O. So what you can see, that copper oxide which is in the reactant is getting converted into copper. है ना? CuO is getting converted into copper and hydrogen is getting converted into H2O. So what is happening here? There is loss of oxygen from copper oxide. है ना? CuO to Cu. There is loss of oxygen and there is gain of oxygen in the hydrogen. Hydrogen is getting converted to H2O. So gain of hydrogen. So hydrogen में क्या हो रहा है? What is happening here in hydrogen is gain of oxygen. And what is happening here? Removal of oxygen. Here you can write removal of oxygen. So wherever there is gain of oxygen, then it is called oxidation. So you can say here which one is oxidized. So hydrogen is oxidized. Why? Because oxygen is added. And which one is reduced? So copper oxide is converted to copper by the loss of oxygen. So which one is reduced here? Copper oxide is reduced. Always remember, there is always reduction and oxidation from the reactant side, not from the product side. So this is oxidized and this one is reduced. Clear? Now next one is oxidizing agent and reducing agent. That way I will talk in detail about it after 2 minutes. Now let's talk about the second reaction. Here you can see the main reaction is Zn plus CuSO4 gives ZnSO4 plus Cu. So in this reaction, if I will write this reaction in the ionic form, so Zn is Zn only. CuSO4, you can see that Cu is 2 plus. There is always you can write Cu 2 plus and SO4 as 2 minus, and both are cancelled out. Similarly here Zn is 2 plus. Zn 2 plus, it's a valency, and SO4 2 minus. That's why it is cancelled out. So I can write this reaction like this also, Zn plus Cu2 plus and Zn plus 2 as Cu. This is the ionic form of the reaction. So you can now see what is happening here, that Zn, earlier it was Zn and it is now getting converted into Zn2 plus. 2 plus means what? It has lost 2 electrons. है ना? Zinc ने क्या किया है? It has lost 2 electrons. and whenever there is loss of electron, it is oxidized. So there is loss of electron from Zn. So you can write here that which one is oxidized? Zinc is oxidized. Now see here, Cu2 plus means there is already 2 electron less in copper, and here on the product side is Cu. It is now neutral, right? It is neutral. So it is gaining 2 electron and it is becoming neutral. So gain of electron is taking place in the copper. So you can write here that which one is reduced? Cu2 plus. Copper ion is reduced because there is gain of electron. And gain of electron is reduction. Now let's talk about oxidizing agent and reducing agent. So in the above reaction, copper oxide was reduced to copper and hydrogen was oxidized. So how the hydrogen was oxidized? By gaining the oxygen, right? By gaining the oxygen, hydrogen was oxidized. So who is giving oxygen? Which one is giving oxygen? Copper oxide, right? Copper oxide is providing the oxygen to hydrogen और कह रहा है कि लो भाई लो ऑक्सीडाइज हो जाओ. तो who is helping here? Copper oxide is helping hydrogen in getting oxidized. So therefore oxygen कहाँ से मिल रहा है हाइड्रोजन को? From copper oxide, and that is why copper oxide is the oxidizing agent. Why it is oxidizing agent? Because copper oxide is giving oxygen and helping hydrogen in the oxidation process. So what we can write here? Which one is oxidizing agent? CuO. CuO is oxidizing agent. And which one is reducing agent? So hydrogen is the reducing agent. Why it is reducing agent? Because it is taking oxygen from copper oxide and helping copper oxide in the reduction. अगर हाइड्रोजन नहीं होता तो कॉपर ऑक्साइड अपना ऑक्सीजन किसे देता और वो रिड्यूस नहीं हो पाता. Therefore hydrogen is the reducing agent. And there is one trick is there. The substance which is being oxidized is reducing agent, and the substance which is reduced is your oxidizing agent. So reduced will be your oxidizing agent and the substance which is oxidized will be your reducing agent. It is always true. Okay. Now see here. Which one is oxidized? Zinc is oxidized. How? By losing electron. And which one is gaining electron? Copper. Copper is gaining electron. तो अगर कॉपर नहीं होता तो इलेक्ट्रॉन गेन कौन करता है ना. तो कॉपर इज गेनिंग इलेक्ट्रॉन. देयरफॉर वी कैन से हियर दैट which one is reducing agent? Which one is reducing agent? जो ऑक्सीडाइज हो रहा है वो reducing agent होगा. तो यहाँ पर जिंक जो है वो reducing agent है. And which one is oxidizing agent? तो जो reduce हो रहा है वो oxidizing agent होगा. तो Cu2 plus is the oxidizing agent. Why Cu2 plus is oxidizing agent? Because Cu2 plus is gaining the electron from zinc and helping zinc in oxidation. अगर Cu2 plus होता नहीं तो zinc electron किसे देता? Okay, so Cu2 plus is helping in the oxidation process of zinc. Similarly, which one is reducing agent? Zinc. Why zinc is a reducing agent? Because zinc is helping Cu2 plus in the reduction. क्योंकि zinc ही है जो इलेक्ट्रॉन दे रहा है. And that is why zinc is the reducing agent. So in a nutshell, I can say that, in short, that जो oxidize हो रहा है, that is our reducing agent, और जो reduce हो रहा है, that is our oxidizing agent. So by using these things, you can simply find out these 4 things, and that is very important question. This type of question definitely will come in your examination and talking about your board examination. So practice these questions and score marks in your board exam. That's all for today. We will meet in the next video very short. Thank you.